Welcome. I'm joined today by Jayne from ReturnToWorkSA and Kylie from Allianz. Welcome to Studio Peef.
Thank you for having us.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, you're just off stage, your topic this morning. Now, the big topics, our theme, as you know, is future of work. The big topics have been very much the impact of technology on the changing face of work. But hand in glove with that, the equally big topic is capability in the industry and capability development. So, congratulations on a great talk. Talk to me a bit more about some of the challenges we're facing with capability, and especially as the workforce is changing, the workplace is changing, the way we work is changing. What sort of impact is that having on capability development and people?
There's been a real shift in the way we work, and everyone used to call it the new ways of working. It's not the new ways of working; it's just the way we work now. And that impact into capability, and we're experiencing at Allianz is that ability to connect and how we communicate, and making sure our people feel that there is that form of connection. And that capability along that, in working in a hybrid way, takes on a whole new journey. And in particular, as we see the transition of people, some people don't want to come back to the office and some do, and they really embrace that. But I think it's a blended approach, and it's upskilling our leaders, in particular people leaders, to how do I manage in the new way of working, and giving them that in their capability toolkit. And that is that, that connection is key, and then collaborating and having those one-on-one conversations, and having meetings with their team members. And in particular, when it comes to capability, we're seeing a shift in the drive for that culture of continuous learning, and moving towards that. And that's enabling our people to have learning and in different platforms of learning. That it's still that face-to-face component is really crucial for building capability, in particular as we hire and induct new employees into the business. But then it's that upskilling or skills snacking, as I call it. How can we then look at different learning platforms, whether that's through technical, is it podcast learning, is it reading articles for upskilling, and in particular in that hybrid or in flexible working, tapping into skills and building capability at any moment in time, I think is really important as well, as we see the shift into the new ways of working and creating a continuous learning culture that we're trying to embed at Allianz. And because our people are telling us that career development is what they're looking for through our culture and engagement surveys. So then, in that learning environment, fostering one in particular. And at Allianz, we mandate that every team member does 45 hours of learning to build their capability, and that's on top of their day job capability and skill set. This is learning that's relevant for them, so they're really targeting their own personalised learning journey, and that's really, what's in it for me? What's the things I like to learn about? That's really key. And using platforms like Degreed, which is artificial intelligence, they can put words in, and all this fantastic training and upskilling arrives into the categories that they want to learn about, taking them on their own career aspirational journey and linking that capability build.
And what are you seeing in South Australia? Now, being from Melbourne, so through COVID, our technological journey was quite different to the South Australian experience because we were locked down for nearly a year. What are you finding in South Australia? What's their experience, and how's that changing the way you're approaching capability development?
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point. I guess we touched on it really briefly, is that we look to the learning and the systems that support people right from induction through and ongoing. But I guess when I come down to the tech transformation piece that we're about to go on, we're going, why now?
Yes,
again. And so coming back to the issue itself, and identifying the issue, we often go, okay, it's a training need, it's a learning need, and thinking that that's going to solve the problem. When in fact, we have to unpack it and go, what is the factors that we at ReturnToWorkSA, is what we've just had to go through, what are we actually contributing to through the systems that we're asking people to engage in? They are slow. The case management program that we have, that we're asking everybody to upload their information to, doesn't have case notes. I can't go on there as somebody to find out what activity.
Look at the horror in Kylie's face.
Correct, isn't it, right? We don't even have that. you're having to go back and save them in these back-end programs and yet with this particular, document identification codes. And if you don't get that right, then that document is not accessible. So, these are the diagrams. And with, whilst it's robust and it shows good governance and good management and it meets all of our criteria, it's absolutely adding such impact and delay. We went through a program where we had return to work plans. And as the return to work results were going down, the thing is, we better control it more. Excuse me, we better control it. So we then got all the best and the brightest round and we mapped out this amazing 100-field return to work plan. And then case managers had to go out and do that across thousands and thousands of people. And you imagine that instead of being able to come and sit with you and have a conversation going, Kylie, how are you doing? What's going on for you? And having this meaningful conversation, it's one, opening up a laptop that may or may not be working. Two, seeing if we can connect, because half the time connectivity would not work, more than half the time that people are trying to get in. Then having to pull up this document, which took 47 clicks, and then having to fill out 100 documents. And it wouldn't even populate back from the previous data. And you just get your name again, your date of birth again, your same address.
And you have to ask yourself, where's the learning?
And you sit there going, what are we doing?
Exactly.
And meanwhile, we have, again, because we outsource our claims management, we have got EML and Gallagher Bassett going, we've got great stuff around this. We are national and international companies. How about you let us do that? And this is where our own limitations were, hang on, how's that going to fit in with our systems? So finally, that's brought us to the place of tech transformation, where we have, as a whole business, identified the need and the gain, not just in these short-term terms. Otherwise, we're adding on a product here and bolting on another product here and fixing a problem here, but with an unintended consequence over here. So that capability building, in looking at that system stuff, then how we are going to roll it out. What is it that we need? When we first started looking at the next steps, we're looking at our internal view without actually seeing where everybody else had moved and advanced to.
Exactly, yes.
And that's where that collaboration piece is so critical, and I'm sure you can speak to that too. I mean, Allianz is the same. You've been using things, doing things way ahead of anything that ReturnToWorkSA has had within our realm of the world. And then maybe you can speak to some of those regulatory constraints that might impact you too.
Yeah, and I think even though we're a large global organisation, we're not dissimilar in some of the tech issues, and I think it's good to be open and honest about that.
Yes, and I think too with the technology in the industry, it's a big ship, and it takes a long time to turn a large ship.
Absolutely, and it takes investment as well.
And it takes investment,
and I
exactly.
think, and as you're investing in that, you're still trying to build other capability across the case manager portfolio, and in particular in the ways of working and the shift coming back out of COVID, and in particular being a national business where every state had different lockdown laws, and then the return of and then seeing the shift. And I know at Allianz we've seen a real shift in the market of the talent we're attracting. What is that capability like as they're entering in?
And what is it like?
I'm sure, Jane, you're not in your head. Australia, through that new environmental factor and the change, what COVID's brought is it's sort of isolated us. We're an island, which is fantastic because we're kept safe and it protects us from lots of things. But it's also limited the talent supply as a result of that. So then we're seeing a different capability entering, the industry, which then shifts the capability uplift and the time it takes to build that capability.
Yes.
And then also looking at the generational, there's lots of conversations and rich conversation around with Dr. Ben Hammer about that Gen Z population. And, they're looking for multiple careers. And in particular, they're looking for, what's in it for me? And they're even disregarding, what do you mean I need to come into an office to learn? In that capability build, when you first hire a new recruit, that buddy system and on-job is crucial for that learning to take place. Yet the people that are applying for roles don't want to even come in for that.
Well, it's interesting too because they're used to an environment where you don't even have to go to university to learn. To attend a university. You can actually do that.
Correct.
From your home.
And this is why it's important from a capability build, what platforms are we using? I think it's a combination of, that 70-20-10 model, that L&D professionals that we quote, but it's in particular, where does that learning come from? And very good point, Greg. Is it through podcasts? Is it articles? But learning in the moment and making a personal learning journey, that's going to be crucial But using those capability frameworks, because we're bound by regulatory laws and what we do as an industry, but overlaying that with a capability framework that people can come in and out of to have a real personalised learning journey and that connection and collaboration along the way. But not dismissing the tech issues, Jayne. It impacts that whole employee experience.
And it can actually slow down that journey substantially because you're simply learning workarounds, aren't
Correct.
you?
Exactly. And I think it also making sure that these programs are delivered in a way that can embed with what they're already doing and not distract from it.
Exactly.
You know, as I said, there's always going to be new legislation that comes down that we have to make sure that there's a competency and level around and an understanding that people can talk to it and deliver it. Then you add a tech transformation change and the impact that that's going to have, and just getting digital literacy up, let alone actually applying the tools, then being able to get used, but not distracting from those key elements of delivering that personalised service, of being able to actually get the performance outcomes. These schemes were designed and based on these performance outcomes that will hold that legislation in place. All of those things are fundamental. Making sure that they are accessible and, doesn't actually impact, because I know as a claims manager coming in at the end of a week and you've got someone saying you've got to go to a 3-hour session and you're going, well, I can do that, or I can actually finally get these things done, which is going to actually make me feel good about my job. It's going to have that, I've got this solicitor waiting for this phone call, this doctor's waiting for this report to come back. Those are the things that is the reality of that day-to-day experience. And whilst I can talk about magnificent programs and what works, the fact that we can tailor them and individualise those programs in a way that people can access them in a meaningful way for them. And for some people, it is at the end of a day. For some people, it's in the quiet at the beginning.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I think the more adaptable we are in that, I think that's where we'll...
And learning synergies from a capability framework, that's what we have to do from a regulatory law point of view. But then what's in it for my personal career journey? What capabilities do I want to grow and build to take me to my next career?
Exactly.
That's really important. And I think looking at personal injury as just not a job, it is a career. We can offer multiple jobs within this industry.
There are so many people here today that have lifelong careers in this industry.
Correct, and that is amazing, but it's also sharing that and, showcasing that. Because when people think I'm hired as a case manager, wow, am I a case manager then? Is that my career? No, it's not.
No.
So, in developing the case manager career framework at Allianz, which we launched last year, that has been groundbreaking for us in attracting talent because they can actually see progression and progression throughout and a timeline. And I think that Gen Z, as Dr. Ben Hammer spoke about, was they don't want to wait 3 years, 4 years. They actually want to see, that financial impact to my next role. What does that mean? And in particular in this financial environment that we're coming across, that is really important for people.
Exactly.
And to grow their careers. And it's been a game changer for us in attraction of talent, people moving within the industry to come to Allianz, but also the retention of talent for us. Our turnover has decreased dramatically since rolling out that case manager career framework.
Can I ask, have you linked in your remuneration?
Yes, so I did.
Well?
Yeah, so underpinning for me, I like it like a house and a cement slab. Our remuneration framework is one of the levels that we have to get right before we then build our capability framework on top. Exactly. And as a HR practitioner, it was really important for me that we had the benchmarking correct with the industry. And that was quite a difficult thing to do because everyone sort of keeps their cards close to their chest across this industry in relation to what's the remuneration that I'm paying. And the remuneration is one element, I think, to an employee experience. But I think it was underpinning for the case manager career framework. Yes, there was some fluidness and agility within those salary bands too, to pay for talent at different levels as they enter that case manager career framework, and equipping our leaders to make that decision using that remuneration framework to ensure that the talent that we are, either we're buying talent in, I liken the 3 Bs: we buy talent, we borrow talent, and we build talent across our organisation. And having a people strategy that underpins those 3 is really important to the capability of our personal injury team, because sometimes I need to buy that expertise in that is then going to come and build the capability within the existing team.
Yeah.
I may need to borrow that capability, and borrowing that capability may be through partnering with my institutions where someone wants to come and do a project or a secondment with us, to share those learnings and to build the internal capability. And the third one to me is the build. So what's my strategy in relation to how do I build the personal injury capability? And that is through lifelong and continuous learning culture shift. And we've seen a big shift in the rolling out of the growth mindset. We partnered with the Growth Mindset Institute, and we're doing a lot of work with equipping our leaders to lead with a growth mindset, to really look at learning as an opportunity. How do I shift the narrative to build capability? And that's a big, strong key thing for us in personal injury leaders.
It sounds to me like the future of capability is bright, and I thank you both, especially in your very capable hands. I thank you both for your contribution to the conference today, and I thank you for joining Studio Peef. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.